class. No class. Okay.
Now, Ruby didn't seem to be planning anything concrete, but he couldn't stop saying between drinks how terrible the whole situation was and how badly he felt for the president's wife and his children.
He's right. He is correct, right?
Yeah, I think so. This is very cinematic. I think there was a movie about Jack Ruby called Ruby by Danny Aiello was playing Ruby, which is perfect casting.
I love Danny Aiello. R.I.P.
Yeah, and there's something about this man that has now taken this onto himself because he believes himself he is an adopted son of Dallas. He loves Dallas. He feels for Dallas. He loves America. He's a true American. He believes that anybody can make themselves of something because you look at just sort of his kind of entrepreneurial energy, the kind of way that he really believed he was going to make something of himself in this life, and he kept throwing at it, kept throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. It never sticks because spaghetti's wet. And so
that's
he
why
knows
it sticks.
it's hard. It's hard to make it stick.
It is hard to do, yeah.
But you got to get it right. And so now you have this like moment in history where he sees and he's like, I can make something happen.
Right.
Maybe. I don't think, at this moment, I don't think he's thinking that.
Getting hammered, mourning the loss, realizing that he's got a gun and an angry temper. He might have had it cross through his mind a time or two.
Maybe.
He beat up a prize fighter. He's beaten men twice the size of Lee Harvey Oswald. He knows that if him and Lee Harvey Oswald, that they could just set it up, if he could just convince a cop to put the two of them in a boxing ring.
Right.
And I think that it must have at least been a thought of being like, just let me fight him one time and show the whole world about how Jews can go and fight the men that assault our president. Like, he is ready to do it.
Yeah.
So, on Sunday, November 24th, Ruby was woken up by his housekeeper at 9 a.m., very hungover. His roommate, George Senator, said that Ruby looked worse than he usually did, and he kept mumbling and jabbering about the assassination. Then, Ruby got a phone call. He owed one of his dancers money, so she asked him to run down to the Western Union in downtown Dallas, right next to the police headquarters, to wire her $25 for rent and groceries. Jack agreed and drove through Dealey Plaza on the way.
They didn't have it closed off, huh?
No.
That's weird.
No, not at that point. It's a pretty main road.
Yeah, it is.
Meanwhile, back at police headquarters, death threats against Lee Harvey Oswald had been coming in fast and steady. But even though the police knew that Oswald's life was in very real danger, they didn't make too much of an effort to protect him during the transfer to the county jail. Because again, they were trying to make a good impression on the press, or, as Henry said, they might have just wanted someone to kill him.
They presented him.
But they also, in a way, ignorantly kind of thought that everybody that would be in this would be kind of in the know.
Yeah.
Right? That anybody that would be in this area are people that we know. We vouch for these people that are here. They are reporters and cops. So maybe this is like a safe space for us to bring him out and show him, which is very ignorant, honestly.
Yeah, it's very dumb. And the plan was to have 2 armored trucks and use one as a decoy while the other would take Oswald and 2 guards. But upon the truck's arrival, it was found that one was too small to hold 3 men, and the other was too big to clear the entrance to the parking garage.
Was a Yugo? What? It was too small to hold 3 men?
I don't know why they couldn't check on this beforehand.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know why. They look at the specs, but the reporters also did not buy it. They just saw, they were like, that's the fake car that they think that we're going to do. Like, but we know he's coming out of this back ramp.
So it was decided that they'd still use one truck as a decoy while Oswald would be transported in an unmarked car. Now, of course, word spread fast that Oswald was being transferred, so the press gathered in the basement garage so there would be plenty of room for photographers to take Oswald's picture on the perp walk. Like, they chose the garage because they're like, we want there to be plenty of room for all the cameras, because I think they wanted, there were live television crews there to show this happening, because the Dallas police wanted to show themselves, we are doing our jobs. Look at us do our jobs.
Kind of peacocking a little bit.
Look at us do it. Well, because at night, they were all up to that morning. At that night, they were like, let's transfer him right now at night in secret. And they all said, no, we got to do it in the morning, and we're going to let everybody know that we're doing it. So they actually told the reporters, be here at 10 a.m., we're moving him at 10 a.m. Mm-hmm. But they were late, which is very interesting because at this point, Jack Ruby is still he's still transferring money.
He's at the Western Union. So just after 11 a.m., Oswald was told that he was about to be transferred. But Oswald, who is apparently cold-natured, wanted a sweater for the trip.
Oh. Can I have a sweater? I need a sweater.
So the police captain sent out for a couple of sweaters, and Oswald settled on the black one after he tried on the beige one and decided he didn't like it.
It's thinning.
Hey, man, you're going to be on TV.
Yeah.
And if Lee Harvey Oswald hadn't requested those sweaters and spent so much time being fussy about the color, he would have been long gone to the county jail by the time Jack Ruby finished up at the Western Union.
Damn.
And once again, the cops showed their incompetence. They did take into consideration that someone might shoot Oswald, but they handcuffed Oswald to a cop, which made it impossible for Lee Harvey Oswald to duck should anyone come out of the crowd with a gun.
Also, who was the unlucky cop that got handcuffed to him?
That's the thing. It was also dangerous for the cop. And that's what points more towards incompetence than conspiracy.
Right.
And the cop even told him, like, right before they walked out, was like, man, if someone shoots you, I hope they're as good a shot as you are, Lee.
Good Lord.
He's laughing at and they all fucking laughed about it.
That's some Texas humor right there.
Well, that is some Texas humor. It's just, you definitely drew the short end of the stick that morning at the old PD department, or police department.
Now, it had also gotten out to the public that Oswald was being transferred. And when word got to Jack Ruby, the decision to kill him was made almost instantaneously. It was, I know where he is. I've got my gun. I know how to get there. I'm going to go do it.
Well, this is very contentious. This to me is it's not about conspiracy. It is about, to me, this is a conspiracy theory that I wonder if it even is that complicated, because he was late. They didn't know that he was going to be transferred at past 11 o'clock. I think that Jack Ruby had somebody in the inside on some level, not telling him, not thinking he was going to kill him, but literally saying, they're transferring him now, Jack. You want to take a look at him? They're transferring him now. They all know Jack Ruby.
Yeah.
To the point where you will see where he screams, "You all know me," when they're arresting him. I don't think that's why Rush to Judgment and who was Jack Ruby put a lot of weight on saying, well, he had inroads with the Dallas PD, and so they directed him to kill Lee Harvey Oswald. Where I think it's more that they did full on tell him, we're transferring him now, and here it is, and let him walk into the basement without checking him, without doing anything, without looking for a gun, because they just wanted to include him because they knew how upset he was about JFK getting murdered, and it was almost like a nice thing, like, we'll let him see it.
Yeah,
and we know him. We trust him.
That's super smart to let the heavily armed, super upset guy run into the person that killed the man that he loved. I think that's very smart. Police work.
Yeah. Well, what Ruby said he did was he walked to police headquarters, slipped past the police barricade, ran down the ramp to the basement parking lot, and waited in the crowd of reporters. But he didn't have to wait long. He was there only a few seconds when Oswald walked out the door.
Perfect timing.
And all of the reporters were like, oh, hey, it's that Jack guy. Like, it wasn't like, who's this guy? It was like, oh, yeah, that guy. I remember that guy. Now, as I said, the whole thing was being broadcast live on television. And what you're about to hear is the sound of the world's first on-air murder.
There is Lee Oswald. He's been shot. He's been shot. Lee Oswald has been shot. There's the man with a gun. It's absolute panic. Absolute panic here in the basement of Dallas Police Headquarters. The detectives have their guns drawn. Oswald has been shot. There is no question about it. Oswald has been shot.
Oh! And thanks to Lyndon Johnson, that wasn't the last time we got to see live death on television because of Vietnam.
But it's very interesting to see him cut through the crowd. He jumps right in front because apparently what was supposed to happen, which Rush to Judgment kind of painstakingly, almost boringly puts together, is that there was supposed to be a car parked for them to go right into the car as soon as he came around the corner. It was not a far walk. It was a quick walk from the door to the car. But they got the high sign early. The car wasn't parked. So as they were coming down, they actually had to slow up. They were literally running, essentially, dragging him so everybody can see it, but they were trying to get to the car as fast as possible. But they had to slow up for the car to get into position. In that hesitation was when Jack jumped forward.
Damn,
Yeah.
perfect storm, huh?
Yeah, and when Jack jumped forward, like, one of the detectives, like, immediately recognized him, and right before Jack pulled the trigger, he yelled, "Jack, you son of a bitch, don't!"
Yep.
Life is stranger than fiction, isn't it?
But nobody was fast enough to stop him. And Ruby shot Oswald in the torso point blank with a .38 snub-nose revolver right after he yelled, quote,
"You killed my president, you rat!"
Damn.
The bullet bounced around inside Lee Harvey Oswald's innards, ensuring that the shot would be fatal. There's no fucking way he's going to survive that.
Right.
And as the detectives tackled Ruby, he said,
"I'm Jack Ruby. You all know me."
he didn't think he was going to spend a single night in jail.
Really?
Yeah, he was like,
yes,
they all
he's
know,
a hero.
they all know me. I'm a hero. Like it's like he's just like, I'm just gonna take care of this rat.
Okay.
He truly believed that he would not see a day of jail. He thought that this is finally him making good.
Right,
and that
right.
he was going to be a major part of Texas history, and he was.
He is,
but
yeah.
just on the opposite side.
Yeah, I mean, he thought everyone would look at him and go, finally, someone did it.
Thank God,
Thank
yeah.
God someone did it.
I mean, I get the drunken, hungover logic.
But as I was watching, when you watch him do it too, it's so weird because it's so. I don't know why this case is so eerie to me sometimes and actually kind of emotional. Like, as I'm watching, maybe it's because there's so much footage of the actual murders of JFK, and then there's the footage of Lee Harvey Oswald getting shot, because it's almost like every time I watch it, being like, maybe he'll get away this time and we won't deal with it. I don't know why it's this like hinging point of like, man, these people were kind of paraded in front of each other. The way that they described in JFK, the way they described in JFK shooting, they described that chunk of street as a killing box. That they set up this place where there were so many areas, or a shooting field. There's so many ways that for him to have been murdered, that if he just went through, it would have been just a lovely convertible ride. But then if you look at it again and be like, no, he was like presented to be murdered. Same thing with Lee Harvey Oswald. He is presented, he is put up in an almost ritualistic fashion of like, here, come get him right now. We're putting it to chance. We're rolling dice. Instead of making sure that he is on lockdown and in the coverage of night, like what they did more successfully with El Chapo, where they just kind of, you never saw his face ever again. You know what I mean? Like, he just got fucking scooped up by a phalanx of police officers, put into a super secret cell, and no one had any possibility of getting at him. Where like this was just like kind of wondering if we have closed a door, but will history open a window?
Immediately, Oswald was rushed to Parkland Hospital, the same place JFK had been taken, and the same staff who tried to save the president now worked on Oswald, although they refused to treat him in the same trauma room where JFK had been. But even though they attempted multiple surgeries, Lee Harvey Oswald died at 2:07 p.m. on November 24th, 1963, less than 48 hours after he was arrested.
Damn.
Ensuring that the full truth about the assassination of JFK will never be known.
And never talked about again.
Never once. And it won't be a big deal, which is nice.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Lee Harvey Oswald tried not making light of it during his interrogation. He's like, yeah, there's going to be another president in like 2 days, and everyone will forget about this.
Yeah. No, he nailed it. He nailed a lot of stuff.
Of course, after his death, Lee's mother tried removing the blame from her special boy, saying that her son should be buried in Arlington National Cemetery as the unsung hero of the assassination. She said there's a lot of stuff you people don't know about.
Damn.
And then her other son came into the room and said, Mom, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
The safe deposit box!
And when they asked Ruby why he'd killed Oswald, he said he wanted to spare Jackie Kennedy the pain of a trial, adding, quote,
I guess I just want to show the world that a Jew had guts.
Yeah, that's so weird. Jack Ruby is he is controversial. I don't know. It's very strange. Obviously, you can't go killing anyone.
No,
you can't do it.
It was
but in his
absolute-
heart, he really did think he was doing something right.
He did think he was doing
And that
something right.
is actually very nice because that trial would have sucked for Jackie.
No, it's not nice at all. No, it's not
he
even
destroyed
close.
everything.
In his mind.
Oh, I guess it's a
yes.
nice gesture.
In his mind, yes. It's like when your cat gives you a dead rat and you're like, thank you. I would have
you.
preferred not to have to clean this up.
The
but
road
thank
to
you.
hell, my friend, paved with good intentions.
I know what the construction looks like on the road to hell.
Well, as far as Jack Ruby's trial went, his defense attorney wanted to lean on mental illness, specifically the history of mental illness in his family. But Ruby, who thought he would be processed and released the same day as the murder, refused.
One other, Tannehill, his defense attorney, also had another idea that he tried to put forward because he tried to say, and I don't know if it's real or not, that Jack Ruby suffered from epilepsy and that he was in an epileptic state for several days, and that actually the impulsive decision to pull the gun out of his pocket and shoot Lee Harvey Oswald was a seizure, and he had no control over his movements, and that I guess that you can be in a fugue state for like a week with epilepsy, but I don't know.
That's crazy.
Well, Ruby said that he wanted to be known as the guy who defended his president, rather than someone who just went bonkers one day owing to a mental defect passed along by his mother. And as a result, it took a jury less than an hour to deliver a guilty verdict along with an execution order.
Damn.
And after that, Jack Ruby's mental problems only got worse. He told his sister that he believed his actions had resulted in the death of 25 million Jews, and those Jews were all being killed in the floor below his prison cell. He claimed that he could hear them being boiled in oil.
So he really was extremely mentally ill.
Very mentally ill.
Things unraveled more once he was in jail.
Right.
Because he was really going crazy, and he truly just did not understand why no one could understand his motives and why he was in jail to begin with and why was he getting the chair. And Tannehill famously joked to him, I'll tell you what, if they give you the chair, it's really important to not take it.
I love this Texas humor. Do you want to work at my nightclub?
Well, eventually, Ruby tried killing himself several times. Once by pounding his head against the wall over and over again, trying to split his skull open, once by hanging, and once by electrocution with a light fixture.
Can I give you a fuller description of his suicide attempt by light fixture from Who Was Jack Ruby by Seth Cantor?
Of course.
Describing what happened, his jailer said, Ruby appeared to be asleep, sitting up in his chair at the large enclosure outside his cell where Ruby and his guards could sit at a table and play what Stevenson says is that Las Vegas game of cards, gin rummy. Ruby had taught it to him in a kind of cultural exchange wherein Stevenson discoursed on the Bible. Ruby's head was slumped, his eyes closed. Stevenson got up from his chair at that point and went off to get a glass of water. Ruby moved fast. He unscrewed the overhead light bulb, dumped water from his own glass onto the floor as a conduit, and then couldn't reach the socket with his finger while standing in the water. Ruby began jumping up and down, fitfully trying to make foot and finger contact somehow match. It was something nearly comical. Stevenson smiles maliciously.
Nearly.
That is so unbelievably sad for Ruby. Okay.
And Jack Ruby, you want to hear something sad?
Sure.
Every single day he kissed a picture of JFK.
Yep.
Every single day.
I don't know if he deserved the chair necessarily.
Well, he
Well,
didn't
he
get it.
appealed. He appealed.
Yeah, he didn't make it. And he had a new trial coming.
Yeah.
But at the end of 1966, he was rushed to the hospital with pneumonia, and doctors found cancer in his liver, lungs, and brain, which might have also had something to do with it.
Ooh, he
was
everywhere.
riddled with cancer, yeah.
Damn.
And on January 3rd, 1967, just a little over 3 years since the murder, he died from a blood clot.
Damn. Did he regret killing Oswald?
Never.
Never regretted it.
Never.
Even though he was like, oh, I'm not a hero in the eyes of the people. I'm in prison. Like, he never took it back.
Never.
Do you think he would do it again?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
In a
Interesting.
second. He would absolutely do it again.
Very
Yeah.
interesting.
As far as what happened to Lee Harvey Oswald's body, He was buried in Fort Worth the day after his assassination. Aside from his family, no one showed up to the funeral, including the minister, and news reporters there to cover the event acted as his pallbearers.
Hugh Ainsworth that's the reporter I mentioned recently. There were so few people there that one of the pallbearers left. Like, he didn't want to do it. And so they just straight up asked him, like, because he had been kind of, would you be his pallbearer? And he said, no, I won't do it. I won't touch his casket.
That's where I know Hugh Ainsworth from. He was one of the guys that covered Henry Lee Lucas extensively.
Oh,
yes.
Okay, so he's been around.
Oh, yeah, he is a hardcore Texas reporter.
Okay.
Now, had Lee Harvey Oswald just gone to trial, it's likely that conspiracy thought in America would look entirely different than it does today. Mm-hmm. But while Jack Ruby thought he was the hero, his actions only served to permanently muddle 20th century American history.
It's why where we're at. Yes. I honestly do believe that his movement, I almost feel like, because if Lee Harvey Oswald got to trial, we would have seen a lot of the evidence that then was covered kind of more secretly by the Warren Commission, right? Instead of having an in-house investigation from a bunch of the spookiest spooks to ever exist, some of the most infamous names in American history being on the Warren Commission, you then would have a public hearing. You would hear all of this information come out for the first time. And it might have cut a little bit of what then allowed the shadows that allowed conspiracy theory to sort of grow from the information and the gaps of information.
Yeah, you have witnesses under oath. You have discovery. You have everything laid out from beginning to end, both on the side of the prosecution and on the side of the defense. It's all laid out in a manner that the American public is familiar with and comfortable with. So I think people would have taken it more as fact. People would have trusted the whole process a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But because Oswald did not have a trial and because those facts were not laid out clearly and concisely, the government put together its own investigation, which came to be known, of course, as the Warren Commission. And as Henry said, the Warren Commission was filled with spooks and untrustworthy characters, and the whole thing was, despite being 800 pages at the very end of it, still kind of secretive, and it was a process the American public didn't really understand.
Right.
And so conspiracy theory took hold hard and fast, because the first books about the JFK conspiracy were about the Warren Commission, and it was only about asking questions, and those questions blossomed. And that is where we'll start with our conspiracy episodes in 2 weeks on JFK parts 5 and 6.
All right. There it is. Very interesting story. Jack Ruby, this is why it's captivated the nation for over half of a century. This is just absolutely captivating stuff.
And so we've covered the facts, quote unquote facts, that can be verified by researchers over the years. But these next 2 episodes, we're really going to get in the weeds in a way that I don't know if I'm ever going to really recover from, because I'm already just so filled with names, right? But be prepared for the Gemini file. Be prepared for secret space programs. Be prepared for Nazis getting there too. Again, Nazis get in there as well. Then you got the fucking Cubans. Then you got fucking whole lot of mafiosos.
Right.
Up to the point where there might have been 28 people in Dealey Plaza on the day of JFK's assassination, all in competition to see who would kill him first. JFK is the most murdered human to ever exist.
Man, and you know what? It would have been such a shame if JFK would have decided to put that plastic protective covering over his limo that day. All those plans would have been for naught.
Indeed.
Everything. Everything would have been for naught.
Don't forget about Badgeman coming out on Fox. It's going to be a new series.
Oh, and the Three Tramps. The Three Tramps will be in there, too.
The Three Tramps will be there. And as we, when we were saying the Umbrella Man and the Babushka Lady earlier, like those are actual figures.
Yeah, those are real things.
In the conspiracy world. But we're going to be getting deep into the conspiracies. We're going to be talking about Jim Garrison's conspiracies. We're going to be talking about Mark Lane, of course. We're going to be talking about the American coup, the CIA, the Mafia, the Cubans, fucking everybody on the first episode. And then on the second, we'll be getting into Secret
More
Space
esoteric.
Program, more esoteric stuff, and the whole thing's going to end with what we think happened.
All right, everyone. I did say it was suicide before, but now I believe JFK died from complications from the gout. So you never know. Go out there, go get checked. Don't eat so much lobster.
Yeah.
Don't eat so much lobster.
I just wish that the CIA didn't have, like, all the motives for killing him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, all the
That's
motive
the part that
means
gets
an opportunity.
really confusing. And
God.
that the lone nut, like the reasonable storyline, there is no motive. And then for all of the crazy shit, there actually is motive, but there is no, like, this is how it was done from A to Z. It was all just bullshit.
Right.
Plopped on top of actually very strong motives for killing the president.
All right, everyone. Well, speaking of driving around, we are going to be on tour in April. We are super excited. We're going to be in a big old bus. So finally, I can't sleep on the bus. They only make the beds for people who are 6'4" and under. Jack Ruby would have been comfortable as hell with his average height, evidently, of 5'9". We are super excited to see everyone in April. If you haven't gotten tickets, get those tickets. It'll be a lot of fun.
It'll be a lot of fun. Oh, and one more thing. Gigantic thanks to research assistants Joel McKean, Rachel Shue, and Emily Fusco for their help on these episodes and all of the episodes to come. They've been fucking invaluable. And they're invaluable on every episode that we do here on Last Podcast on the Left. So thank you. Very big thank you to our research assistants.
And if you look up, there are some great documentaries that I've been watching. The Rush to Judgment documentary from 1966 is so interesting to see where these conspiracy theories first fucking popped up. I'm having a field day and I love it.
That's great, buddy. I'm happy for you. Next week, we will be doing, as Marcus mentioned, we will be doing a relaxed fit. And then, yes, we will be on to the conclusion of JFK.
And the relaxed fit is still going to be JFK themed. We're still going to be talking JFK stuff. I'm going to be talking about the murder, of Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, very interesting.
Remember, we got, so we're coming to your town. Book comes out April 7th. If you pre-order now, and this also includes for everybody who pre-orders, we're going to put up the document for you to go and fill out a form. If you've pre-ordered previously or you're about to pre-order a book now, you're about to get maybe some free merch. We're going to give out T-shirts to lucky buyers. We're going to give out posters, and 10 extremely lucky people, oh man, they're so lucky, are going to get personalized videos from the homes of Ben, Marcus, and myself.
Isn't it amazing? You can get a personal message from a 38-year-old man who lives with a dog. Isn't that great? Nothing more exciting than that.
Also, come check out Classy Night Out at the Pack Theater in Los Angeles this coming Wednesday. We do it every second Wednesday of the month in LA at the Pack Theater. It's free. It's hosted by Ed Larson and myself. Come on out because those seats get filled, and it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
And don't forget to listen to No Dogs in Space. We just finished our series on suicide, and if suicide's not your cup of tea, I understand if it's not. Starting next week, we are going to be starting our 3-part series on UK punk legends, The Damned.
Dang it all to hell. All right, everyone, keep on supporting all the shows here on LPN, and never forget, hail yourselves!
Hail Satan!
Hail Yin!
Magustalations!
Hail me! Now you may be asking yourself, what was the deep, dark magic ritual that the JFK assassination fulfilled?
We're
going to tell you all about it in a way that is going to make you a worse person. This show is made possible by listeners like you. Thanks to our ad sponsors, you can support our shows by supporting them. For more shows like the one you just listened to, go to lastpodcastnetwork.com.
I wash my hands to protect my family.
I wear a face covering to protect my mates.
I make space to protect my colleagues.
Hands.
Face.
Space.
I wash my hands to protect strangers.
I wear a face covering to protect other passengers.
I make space to protect you. Hands.
Face.
Space.
As we spend more time indoors, we need to do whatever we can to help protect each other from coronavirus. So please, wash hands, cover face, make space.
There's no place to escape to.
This is the Last Podcast.
On the left. That's when the cannibalism started.
What was that?
Can you imagine young Tommy Hinkle-Dinkle, right? He just went down to Dealey Plaza, and all he wanted to do was see the president.
Right.
You know, and he's like, oh, Mama, Daddy, do I get to see the president today? And they're like, yes, Tommy, we do. And Tommy gets to go, and he sees all the glittering limos and stuff, and he's like, this is just simply the most amazing thing on the face of the planet. And he looks over and he sees he's like, what is the lovely little lawn I can go hang out on? This is nice, and it seemed to be pretty deserted, a lot of room for me to see the president. Well, hello, Mr. Police Officer, what do you want? The name is Badgeman. Tell me, young boy.
Badgeman is French?
Oh, yes, I am, of course you can.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you ever held a rifle before, young boy? Well, no, I never have done before. Well, here's your first chance. Here, hold on to this rifle. Oh, this is simply amazing. The power. Ba-bam!
Whoa!
Oh, my God, I killed the president.
Welcome to the last
I killed the
podcast.
president.
Welcome to the last podcast of the Leftover One. I am Ben with Marcus Parks.
Hello, Ben.
And Henry Zabrowski. I gotta say, if the person who killed JFK had the last name Hinkle-Dinkle, we would still be laughing today about it. Because
I killed the president.
What? Mr. Hinkle-Dinkle, you killed the president?
I wanted to wave. I wanted to wave and see Jackie's hat. Now Jackie's hat is all covered in brains.
Oh my goodness, that's not right. Okay, everyone, we are on to part 5 of our JFK series. This episode is the descent into the conspiracy world that basically we currently live in. So let's get into how we got here.
Think about this. Marcus and I have sat for the last, 120 hours.
Somewhere on there.
Consuming JFK assassination information. This is real information that we're about to go through today. What we're doing is we're spreading the lap of conspiracy theories so that we can really get up on the pubic mound of the truth here, right? This is very, very important. And do you think, because what perfect times? It's not like things are super paranoid right now. So there's a lot of pressure in society. Like this isn't some kind of like weird crux for all of us. And I wonder if finally now we'll have the true motive to get to the bottom of this, Kissel.
So we're in the pubes of the JFK story.
Yeah.
Is that's right? You know, it's only information you can get here at the last podcast on the left that brings up a very intelligent script that you wrote, Marcus. It's
Thank you.
Unbelievably smart.
Thank you
People
very
are going to learn a lot. But we did preface it with, we're all in the pubes now.
We're just little crabs on the shafts of the truth.
Oh.
JFK Part 4, we placed much of the blame for the birth of the JFK conspiracy movement, and hence the modern conspiracy movement at large, on the shoulders of Jack Ruby.
Sparky Rubenstein.
Oh.
But Ruby was merely the catalyst. When it comes to the government completely and totally botching a response that was supposed to introduce certainty in times of confusion, it's hard to find an investigative body more inept than the Warren Commission.
I'd call them, they're like the Hex Men. This is the worst super team ever put together.
Why is it when the government tries to clarify things get more confusing?
Things get worse.
Yeah.
Now, for those of you unfamiliar, the Warren Commission was supposed to be the investigation that gave the American people a clear explanation for exactly how the president wound up dead in the streets of Dallas. But the commission itself, from its formation to its investigation to its conclusions, can be looked at a few different ways, although you would be hard-pressed to find someone who looks at it as competent in any way whatsoever.
Hey, if you're a guy that measures how many chairs a bunch of old men can sit in, it was 100%.
Oh, isn't
because
that nice?
Each one of the raisiny fucking butt cheeks was always in a chair.
This is where we all get to channel our inner Bill Cooper.
Yeah.
Because it's correct to question the government in this case.
Now, if you're going from the conspiracy angle, you say that the Warren Commission was part of the cover-up. In controlling the investigation, the government was able to hide any embarrassing or, more importantly, implicating evidence.
Yeah, man.
The other way to look at it is that the Warren Commission was criminally understaffed and overworked, and the time constraints put on the junior and senior counsel made it impossible for them to do the job properly.
Oh, it's maybe how I fucked up putting together all of the bureaus from IKEA that we had purchased for our home, and then I got asked to never do them again.
Yes, Henry, the death of JFK, an American president, is similar to you fucking up on making furniture. Very similar. I agree.
But them being criminally understaffed and overworked introduces a third possibility. There's also the possibility that the Warren Commission was designed to be incompetent. But the problem with covering up the truth this way, if that is indeed the case, is that it had an unintended consequence. Underestimating the American public's curiosity and intelligence, but mostly their curiosity, the government very well could have helped to create modern conspiracy thought, which ultimately has helped to slowly erode the American people's faith in the government. Shooting themselves in the fucking foot.
Right.
Well, because they couldn't properly figure out an answer. And I'm starting to think, and I'm of the mind, because Marcus and I going deeper into the Warren Commission, I'm really leaning on this theory that it was made to be shabby so that it would get the job done. They would put it all on Lee Harvey Oswald, and it would be over, quote unquote, to them, saying we've done our jobs by just fucking closing the doors. But what you really find out is that the reason why you make it so shitty, you make the investigation so shallow, because as soon as you start opening some of these doors, taking the lids off some of these boxes, you are going to find yourself in really hot water with covert ops,
right?
all these like a world of spooks that if you expose them, you'll never be invited on the inside ever again. And that's how you get shit done, quote unquote, in American politics, is that they say, oh, you got to do it from the inside. So they pretend like they're altruistic by covering up for these covert ops that are covering up for the true intentions of our government's machinations in other countries.
Or could it be, judging by my experience when I go to the DMV and judging by my experience every time I talk to a traffic cop, that these government employees are just completely incompetent and they accidentally messed up our nation forever, similar to when I took my ACTs and I had a donut smudge on it and I literally handed it in hungover, be like, I think I nailed it. I think I did a pretty good job. And then it came back and it was like, you killed JFK.
Well, did you get, recruited by the CIA from that? Because he's the ultimate distraction agent.
Unfortunately, Will Smith's character in Men in Black had other skills other than being annoying and loud. So that's why he was able to hunt the aliens.
He made it look good.
Yeah, he did.
Well, not everybody involved in the Warren Commission was a government employee. A lot of the people involved in the Warren Commission and the Junior and Senior Counsel were brought in from outside. Like, they were all lawyers. But before we truly dig into the world of JFK conspiracy, particularly when it comes to the involvement of the CIA, let's examine exactly why, how, and to what extent the Warren Commission shat America's bed.
Just think about the Universal Studios, the globe that looks like it's covered in human shit.
Yeah.
How appropriate for a government for them to outsource bed shitting.
So since Lee Harvey Oswald was unfortunately killed by the idiot Jack Ruby not too long after being arrested, the American public was robbed of a trial that would have hopefully laid out the facts concerning the president's assassin in a clear manner. Since a conventional trial was no longer a possibility, President Lyndon Johnson appointed a commission to, quote, ascertain, evaluate, and report on the facts of the assassination through a supposedly far-reaching investigation.
This got kicked off 3 days after the assassination, right?
Yes.
This was very, very soon. Right after Lee Harvey Oswald was shot, they jumped on this.
Mm-hmm. And LBJ, he would appoint all commissions literally by taking out his penis. Yes, I'm talking about it again. Directing it at a group of people and letting them know that they are now the Warren Commission.
You're just very, very curious / interested in all of the mythical huge penises of the past. It's him. It's Milton Berle. Also had his famous, formerly known as Milton Curl, is what they called it.
The commission was supposed to be an opportunity for the American public to hear the truth and dispel the many rumors swirling about as to who was ultimately responsible, and it was supposed to be done in an expedient manner. But as each and every member of the commission was about to discover, when the rock of the JFK assassination was overturned, there was far more information, conflicting accounts, and just plain weird shit than they were prepared to deal with.
And I find this to be the same right now, because one thing that's been interesting of this saga right now, we've been doing this for almost a month and a half. I've been deep, fucking up to the middle of my head, which is where my hairline is. I have been up to there in Assassination Nation. Right, I'm a senator in Assassination Nation. Still can't spell assassin though, even though I've seen it 1,000 times. But it really does continue to be very eerie and very interesting. There's so much conflicting bullshit. There's so much like kind of. I'm not going to say dark. I'm going to use the term dark magic.
Sure.
Deep inside of this story, that every single time you see like every witness is wrong and right. All this kind of horseshit. How many people were involved? Like all of the fact that a president could be shot in broad daylight in the middle of the day during a fucking parade. It's a lot. There's a lot in there.
There is a lot in there, and you would think a word that has ass in it twice would be a positive thing. But it turns out it's all about murder.
Now, we're about to dip our toe into name salad here, but we're going to do our absolute best to keep everything as clear and as concise as possible when we're talking about all the players involved in order to lessen your confusion. Because it's very easy to get lost in all these names. That's one of the big problems that conspiracy theory has, especially when the JFK assassination comes out, is people just start flipping out all these names and you completely lose track of the story. Because it's just, you don't know who anyone is or what anyone does.
Why are we helping these people? We couldn't help us. Nobody helped us try to understand all the different names. Operation 40 is 40 Cubans, and they're all, I'm sure, the brave servants of Operation 40, but it's the same name 3 times, just mixed up in different orders 40 times.
We'll get to the bottom of it.
Head the commission, Johnson appointed Chief Justice Earl Warren, which was already a particularly bad decision considering how Warren still had to report to the Supreme Court at 10 a.m. every day.
Earl Warren pissed everyone off. Like everyone. The right, the left.
They gave him the Warren Commission like the boss from Office Space like dropped off the TPS reports. Be like, and just so you know, you're going to want to really close the books on that assassin there. If we can get that going, that'd be great. Thanks.
Although he was a conservative appointed justice and he became more of a liberal, so he's also kind of good.
Mm-hmm. Now, as far as the people directly under Justice Warren went, half of those 6 were fairly innocuous choices when it comes to investigative bodies within the governmental sphere. It was just 3 senators, Richard Russell, John Cooper, and Hale Boggs.
Hale Boggs, that's Wade Boggs' paternal grandfather, and he was born with no knees. Very interesting. No joints. Entirely, it's weird. If he's completely a stiff man, and which is what they needed. They needed a man that just had lines for arms and legs so that he could really pay attention to just the facts.
Absolutely. An easy birth when your kid has no knees, although I think it was a little rough because he also came out with a mustache.
But the other half were, in hindsight, choices that seem almost designed to foment future conspiracy theories, whether those theories are warranted or not. First, you had Gerald Ford, who became president about a decade after the assassination.
Coincidence?
Well, that's the thing.
Get ready for a lot of that.
Well, you know,
coincidence.
Well, Ford became president through a series of governmental goof-em-ups.
That's one way to put it. That's one way to put Watergate. He's a governmental goof-em-up.
He was House Majority Leader, I think, or maybe House Speaker. He was Speaker, and then Spiro Agnew, Richard Nixon's vice president, was forced to resign, so he became vice president. And then when Richard Nixon was forced to resign, Gerald Ford became president.
So you tell me that all I have to do is just sit here and wait for all of them to fuck up, and then I get to be president?
Well, Gerald Ford, actually, he started as was one of the sous chefs inside of the White House kitchen. And when the House Speaker slipped on a banana peel and fell down an elevator shaft, and he brought all of his aides with him because they were on one of those bachelorette party trolleys, where they were all riding a bike. Very unfortunate the way that Parker trolley went over the banana. He grabbed them all, pulled them in there, and that's how Gerald Ford got to be House Speaker. So you could see, happy accidents.
Hey, head of the White House, have we thought about closing up the elevator shaft? We keep on losing senators and members of the House. That's how we weed them out.
Coincidence.
Well, the fact that Gerald Ford was never elected as vice president or president could, from a certain perspective, be seen as Ford being rewarded for his service.
Oh, I don't know what makes you think that, Marcus.
Whoa.
Then you had international lawyer John J. McCloy, who was the former president of the World Bank, which has been rumored amongst conspiracy theorists for years to be a front for the Illuminati.
If we can talk about the World Bank and not somehow become anti-Semitic, I will give us all the prizes.
Well, if they wanted to make the World Bank sound less suspicious, you call it like the Saltwater Taffy Bank. Something nice, something that promotes good. The LA Lakers Bank.
Yes.
Something fun.
Yeah.
And of course, I was making a reference to a lot of the conspiracy theorists who become anti-Semitic.
Of course, yeah.
What?
I don't want people to be like,
I've never heard that before. Coincidence.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that, they're just all these places for, really ridiculous conspiracy to be plugged into. The Illuminati, World Bank shit, that's a stretch. But the final member of the Warren Commission is a highly questionable choice, even if you think there was no conspiracy whatsoever within the Warren Commission.
Janet Reno.
Was she just a pile of cum at that point?
In fact, if this was a true murder investigation conducted by a law enforcement agency, this man would most likely be put quite high on a list of suspects if you're working off the principle of motive, means, and opportunity. I'm talking, of course, about former director of the CIA, Allen Dulles. Allen Dulles had a particular hatred for JFK because, among many other things, Kennedy had fired Dulles after the Bay of Pigs disaster in 1961, which we will explore further later. And while many members of the Warren Commission attended only a few of the hearings, which is insane considering how important all this was, Allen Dulles attended the most by far, almost as if he had a vested interest in the proceedings.
Have you done any research into Allen Dulles, Kissel? Have you ever seen it? Have you ever looked into the story?
Allen Dulles was all over the place. I talked about him a lot in college because he was all with like COINTELPRO, all of this kind of stuff. He created a